Welcome, everybody, to Championship Sunday here at DreamHack Atlanta 2018. My name is Cora Georgiou, and bringing you all of the action for our first quarterfinal of the day will be That's Admirable and Lorinda joining me on the desk. Admirable, I know you love a good Championship Sunday. How are you feeling right now?
Woo! Woo!
That's how I'm feeling right now. My voice is a little bit squeaky after this weekend. I mean, we've had some matches that I have been getting a little hyphy about. I mean, some of them have been... I get a little too excited about digital cards sometimes, okay?
You can't get too excited about digital cards.
Okay,
not
there you go. You heard it right there. It's fact. Lorinda said it. That's how you know it's a fact.
Yeah.
We're talking the stats of the data man.
Right.
I mean, it says it right there in his spreadsheet. You can never be too excited about digital card games.
Yep, just that.
We've got some exciting matches coming up for y'all today. First up, it's going to be Level 9001 taking on Flamekilla. Lorinda, how are you feeling about this top 8 overall? We're going to get the standings up for you guys in a second to be able to see how the bracket looks for today, but what do you make of this, Lorinda?
So at first glance, it's one of the weaker top 8s we've had in 5 or 6 tournaments. You know, we've been blessed with the top players getting through, but actually 3 of these players were top 16 in Montreal. So it's Sayun and Plants and Level 9001. They were all there in Montreal in the top 16. So these guys are repeating performances that they've played in before. So looking pretty good. And obviously the players that you do know, like Sintalol and Tars, actually rounds it out to a really nice looking top 8 for me.
And to me, if you're looking at just overall performances and, you know, some players that perhaps you had not seen prior to this but should be paying attention to, Swaggy G is probably the name at the top of the list for me. Swaggy G has been a very strong player for a very long time at this point. Pretty much every single time I log in and I'm playing ladder and I see him playing, he's got a 2-digit number next to that name, and I also have the privilege of having him spectate me and then instantly lose every single game thereafter. So I think that he has sapped my semblance of luck that was left, and perhaps everyone else that he's been spectating out there as well. So this looks like it might be finally his time.
And I think that's match of the round for me against Sayun. This is his 6th top 16 of the year. That's a lot of top 16s, given he hasn't even played every tournament this year. So, you know, that's going to be the one that I think people will be all eyes on. But Sintalol and Tars, 2 players who everybody knows from 2016, 2017, both of whom took 4 or 5 months off this year. Here they are, they just rock up for the first tournament in a while, top 8, easy.
I mean, Tarsus felt like it's been, like, DreamHack has been his circuit for quite a while.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, for the longest time, he had the most wins in DreamHacks, and then a young man called Just Saying happened, and that is no longer the case. But he's got a chance to take that back today, I believe, or I haven't checked it out for sure, but, you know, Saying didn't have a particularly great tournament. Here's Tars still battling away in the top 8.
He's definitely trying to catch up in that race of most match wins in DreamHack history, but I know you want to see that Soyun Swaggy G match, Lorinda, and I do think that's going to be an awesome one. I have to say Sinto Tars is going to be my match to watch in the quarterfinals here, just because, like you were saying, this has been Tars' circuit for so long. It would be very appropriate, I feel, if Tars finally got his moment to shine in a DreamHack tournament, if he was able to take this one down. Yesterday, I made a bold prediction. I said after Sintalol beat Gallon that this was Sintalol's tournament to take.
There are a lot of people I'd like to see win this tournament. I seem to say that every time. It gets a bit boring, but can you imagine Tars having the trophy at the end of the day? After all the times he's been...
We're all winners!
Everybody wins if Tars wins. And there's several others like that. I mean, as you say, you've said Swaggy. I already said Sayun. I don't think there's anybody doesn't want to see Sintalol win something big. And then we have the other 4 players at all who, again, have got solid history, a couple of them at least, in DreamHack. So it's going to be a fun day.
Up first, we've got 2 players who are relatively unknown. However, Level 9001 has been in DreamHack top 16s in the past, I believe. His opponent, Flamekilla, is a relative unknown. He was 12-0, I want to say, in games going into round number 5 of this tournament on day 1. So a very strong performance from him, though we have yet to see him on stream. But you can see both of these guys here getting ready to show their stuff. And kicking things off early in the quarterfinals can be a little bit nerve-wracking. This is, of course, the first quarterfinal of the day. We're going to be playing through every match that is on the bracket that you just saw, all the quarterfinals, semis, and finals. And we can go ahead and take a look at the picks and bans here, see what these guys have brought to the table.
Yeah, for Level 9001, I'm going to refer to him probably as Level from here on out because there's a lot of things to say. His Taunt Druid's going to be banned away. He's got Even Paladin, Death Rattle Hunter, and Shutterwalk Shaman back behind that. On Flamekilla's side, you see that Mali Ghost Druid banned away. He's got Odd Rogue, Even Warlock, and Odd Warrior left to battle with. And The Taunt Druid ban, pretty rightfully so against Flamekilla. I think almost every single deck on his side is going to be vulnerable to that in some way or another. But I'm still looking at a couple matchups here that really worry me. Namely, it's going to be Shutterwalk Shaman and then the Death Rattle Hunter. Death Rattle Hunter has a check on the other side as well. This is last hero standing that we play at DreamHack, so the winning deck stays on and the losing deck is now out of contention. Very different from Conquest, where you're trying to pinpoint weaknesses in your opponent's lineup. At last hero standing, you're typically trying to build a lineup that counters and it moves back and forth in that momentum in the matchup.
What's Odd Rogue? What's that deck? Never even heard of that deck before. It's really good.
So
we haven't seen it at all in this tournament.
New card called Baku the Moon Eater, and if you have only odd cost cards in your deck, it upgrades your hero power. And so for Rogue, it makes a 2/2 dagger, which for 2 mana gets really murdery and destroys every minion on the board while you push an enormous amount of damage with odd cost Rogue cards.
It's just weird to me that deck has just completely vanished this weekend. You just haven't seen it at all.
It's been... there's been some rumblings with it over in the tavern, but clearly not as prominent on stream. However, Flamekilla having a really good time with it. I do think that I agree, though, Level 9001 decks do have some checks on Flamekiller's lineup, and that's the nature of last hero standing. You want to ensure that you get those good matchups. It is going to be a little bit reliant upon what the queue order is, and of course it is blind pick for that first game. So there still can be a lot of things that determine the outcome of this series, but we want to know, which way do y'all at home think this one is going to go? Make sure you're following the channel and in the chat, hashtag Level9001 or hashtag Flamekilla to cast your vote and say who you think is going to take this series. Admirable, are you particularly inclined to vote either way here? Do you think one of these guys has an edge?
Yeah, I would say it's just like, I want to preface it with saying that in last year's standing, like the opening and what deck you choose really matters because it affects all the permutations of the matchup thereafter. If you queue up the wrong deck first, you can find yourself in a very bad situation, like sometimes nigh unwinnable if you didn't save a deck that really mattered for a lineup there. I think that in Level 9001's case, there's a little less pitfall potential where that opening pick is concerned, and so I would favor Level 9001 in this one, even though I'm kind of looking at it and I'm not quite sure. Flamekilla looks like they got a good lineup, but I think that Level's got the edge here.
Yeah, not only that, I have to agree with you, unfortunately, on pretty much everything you said there. He's got one of the best names in Hearthstone. Level 9001 is just over 9,000, and it's just the best thing.
I mean, one is technically over it.
It's true.
Pretty sure it's
by
deliberate.
one. All right, so you're going with Level as well.
Yeah, I am.
I feel like this is something that Soddle needs to explain to me. I don't really get it right now.
Well, we'll get Soddle's expert analysis on if 9,001 is in fact more than 9,000. But first, I'm going to have to actually make this desk unanimous. I think Level 9001 has more experience than Flamekilla on the tournament circuit as far as we know. Looks like his lineup is going to have some advantages. Then again, we simply don't know much about Flamekilla. He had a great record going into day 2 of the tournament. Obviously was able to close it out and get himself that qualification to top 16, as well as winning his top 16 match to make it to the top 8. So anything can happen here, but we are all going to cast our votes for Level. What did you at home think is going to be the outcome? Is it Level 9001 or is it Flamekilla? It's actually 63% over to Flamekilla, only 38 to Level. They disagree with us.
It's just one of those names where like it's just I mean, he's a Flamekilla, all right?
Yeah.
It's tough not to pick that. I'm just looking at the decks. I'm going off my 2 cents. It's inflation, so it's not quite as much as it used to be.
It's like 1.5 cents now.
Yeah,
it's about
so
100 pounds for me now.
You're 2 pence. I'm looking at it. I feel like Level's got the edge. Pretty tough to say much more about it right there. I don't know why I'm talking with his accent right now, but that's how it is.
Because we default to accents when we're uncomfortable and. Hopefully these guys are feeling a little bit more comfortable than we are after the audience pick clearly disagreed with what we all on the desk have to say here. But now it is time to find out, will Level 9001 live up to the hype that we've created here on the desk, or will Flamekilla win this series and vindicate those audience votes? Coming up, our very first quarterfinal here for Championship Sunday. It's Level 9001 taking on Flamekilla.
We are about to begin our first top 8 match. We're going to be showing every single match of the top 8 as we crown a champion here today at DreamHack Atlanta. It's been a long weekend, but boy, have I enjoyed it thus far. We have been seeing some great Hearthstone. We've got some exciting matches. You know, I'll tell you what, we even had some not exciting ones in there, but I enjoyed those a lot because there was a lot of technical play and execution stuff.
The Warrior match yesterday was quite interesting to watch right at the start, but we did have that Turret reverse sweep with Questro. We have seen a lot, but the payoff is we've seen a lot of the players and we get to see all of the top 8 matches, and that is something I think that makes DreamHack really interesting. When you've had the build-up and now we get the top 8, we see everything. That's
right. We're going to be kicking things off with Death Rattle Hunter versus Even Warlock. We'll be checking out the deck list specifically in just a moment to get some insight into ideas and tech options and what have you. This is a matchup that I have kind of struggled with on who I believe is at favor in the matchup. You know, a lot of times Hunter gets off to one of those really super strong starts where they just get super murdery and Warlock dies. So in Flamekilla's spot, you know, the early pressure is something to look out for. But in Level spot, I feel like, you know, at times that gets checked. And when it gets checked early on, you feel like you don't really have much left in the tank to work with.
Yeah, even Warlock's quite often a weird deck to describe what happens because it's so reliant on those early 4-drops. And you know, when a deck's got a massive power spike that sometimes has and sometimes doesn't have, that makes it a huge sample size needed before you really know how it resolves. Like, how important is the Giant? How important is the Hunter's Mark? Blah, blah. We know they're important, but those interactions are... You have to play a lot before you know exactly how this pans out, because sometimes you just don't get the Giant and you probably just lose.
Yeah, the other thing to really talk about is, you know, inclusions that are not necessarily the norm. In Flamekilla deck, you see the Demonic Project in there. That is the lone Demonic Project that's in the deck. Looking at the top end, there's Mossy Horror in the 6th slot, a Bone Mare in the 8th slot. And outside of that, you know, it's pretty much cut and dry to be the exact thing you expect it to be. Demonic Projects turn a Bone Mare into a Hooked Reaver?
Yeah.
So that's an additional Hooked Reaver.
But there's a Void Lord for Level9001, so if he wants to start setting up his shenanigans, then he can just build a wall for the longest time.
That definitely is a real thing. And kind of looking at the spot right here, you know, Play Dead being used, so there's some early pressure as well. This is the kind of spot where Level, I think, can really get something going and try to put the pressure on Flamekilla. But, you know, with a Hooked Reaver there, I'm curious that ever changes his plans. A lot of times when I play from the Hunter side, what I try to do is ignore that Hooked Reaver exists if I have an aggressive enough hand that I think I can close the game.
But he knows it exists. The card is revealed when you play Demonic Project. And so, yeah, he is going to have to just decide what he wants to do about that. Maybe your minions are big enough to just chew through. He's got the Hunter's Mark. But there's a lot of high health minions. You need that Hunter's Mark fall in this game.
And now he's also fallen in a position where he's got Void Lord, and you start thinking about endgame plans, like a big Katharina turn, which he already knows is going to be coming up. And if you follow that with a Void Lord, you could protect that Katharina for quite a while as it pushes damage.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. As is this Skulking Geist, by the way. Just looking through the hands here, this Skulking Geist is, even though it only just gets the Hunter's Mark, basically, and the trackings, they're pretty important for what Level9001 is trying to do here.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's really important for Level to be pushing the issue right away, because he knows that Flamekilla has that Hooked Reaver. So you can often, when you put your opponent to 17, expect to see a Hooked Reaver on this turn, and you have Hunter's Mark right away, and it's just before the Skulking Geist
so
will
it's
hit.
The best use of the card he's going to get.
And if that doesn't end up happening, he's probably just going to use the Hunter's Mark anyway, because you know, you're not really going to get too many opportunities for it. I don't think Witchwood Grizzly is a 3-2 taunt is really even making that much of a difference in the matchup.
So Flamekilla has used his early advantage of having a 1-mana hero power. That gets worse as the game goes on because your hand is just full of things that you can't cast due to the nature of how even numbers interact with odd mana costs. It's like if you've got 5 mana and everything's 4s and 2s and you've got a handful of cards, you actually start losing mana quite badly when you get into this middle game.
Also the Spider Bomb to deal with. You know, if you end up playing a Hooked Reaver here and you don't take care of something that's on board, this is going to get bad real quick. So Flamekilla looking to deviate from that straight away. Fortunately,
pretty
nice. The egg here.
Yeah. The reason that's pretty nice, he got, the Spellbreaker looked like he had loads of options there, but he's managed to preserve that for potential Katrina later on. He also knows there's a Void Lord he might want to get rid of at some point.
You picked up as well. Yeah, I think Flamekilla is going to have a tough time getting out of this one. You know, even Warlock is a deck that's really seeded in its ability to turn the game around very quickly. You need to have a big swing turn where you establish something and then start counter-pressuring right away.
Cube's going to be a little bit awkward because the play dead is going to be ripped out with the Skulking Geist, and Yeah, it's not going to have the greatest speed, but it's still going to have value over a long time.
Wow, goes to the Grizzly here. So the Grizzly, you know, coming down, it's just outside the range of like a Hellfire or what have you. And the intention, I think, is to cube that right afterwards. You know, turn this 3-4, which is basically nothing, into an actual sizable threat.
With Void Lord as backup later on as well, he's going to have huge, just so much to get through here for Flamekilla. But Flamekiller's minions obviously are going to be able to lump in that damage in.
Pressured through the Geist too, but not able to play it. And that's another big problem.
One of the big deals here could be who finds their Death Knight the first, because at the moment,
I think Flamekiller's just going to die.
He's just going to die.
Taking a lot of damage.
He is.
That Hunter hero power is going to start trucking away. You're down to 3.
Yeah, I tend to assume they just got removal cards, but actually hasn't. Double Hooked Reaver though. He's going to slow it down.
So it's got to be Hooked Reaver this turn, and then the Hooked Reaver gets pushed through, and then there's a hero power, and
yeah, I was thinking he was going to get there, but yeah.
My eyes were not open to the get very aggressive line from the Death Rattle Hunter sign actually in this matchup, and I think what had happened is just, you know, in the 15 or 20 so games I'd played in the matchup, I was just getting stuffed every single time.
Yeah.
And then you know, I sat down with Firebat and Purple and just sat down and practiced, and Firebat, you know, he pretty much gets relentlessly aggressive, and so as he was walking me through it, I just was falling into spots where a Devilsaur Egg was too much. You know, it would force AoE, and then the 5-2 or 5-5 or whatever have you would just push enough damage that it was too much demand from the Even Warlock side, and I think it's exactly what happened to Flamekilla here.
Yeah, mentally I sort of checked out of the early win. I saw the Hooked Reaver in hand, plus the Hooked Reaver coming from the project, and I'm like, oh, he won't get through this anytime soon.
Yeah, I found myself from the Even Warlock side too being as defensive as possible as I can. You know, even at times I have foregone board presence to try to just heal and rely on Hooked Reavers and hope there's no Hunter's Mark. If there's that Hunter's Mark though, and there's the early pressure, you are gonna get hurt.
And we were saying before the game that we felt that Level 9001 had the better lineup head-to-head, at least in this, and yeah, taking down the Even Lock is a big deal here.
Yeah, take a look at Shudderwalk Shaman and Even Paladin back behind this deck for Level. This is last hero standing here, so he's going to stay on that Death Rattle Hunter, and Flamekiller's got to answer back. He's now down to Odd Rogue and Odd Warrior, so both of those options, I think, are pretty strong against what Level has on the table here, so it's a matter of which one you think is going to operate best back behind that.
And also how he views the Odd Warrior matchup, because I don't think the community really has reached a complete consensus yet as to Death Rattle Hunter versus Odd Warrior, how it actually plays out, because another one is it's a game you don't play that many times because it takes so long, and it's very dependent on your Rexar and how you deal with that as the Warrior, and the Warrior can struggle. But for the longest time, people thought the Hunter was favored, and I think that has changed. I think people do believe the Warrior is favored now.
I think that sort of as the Warrior decks matured a little bit, they trimmed out some of the fat and then got a little bit more lean, and also just understood the matchup better. It really started to come together that you can tackle a Deathstalker Rexar. It's not always the case, and it's not very easy, but you can do it.
Yeah.
It requires you to be very diligent with your resources. You have to time Ironbeak Owls really well, and you have to play to the board in a way that can disrupt your opponent by threatening to follow up on a minion you have in play very strong. Those are very difficult things to do, and they require practice. It's not as easy as just going through the motions and being a solid endgame player. It really is a lot of experience in the matchup, and so I do agree with you that I think it is slightly Warrior favored, but Deathstalker Rexar is such a powerful card that it can change that dynamic alone if it continues to build substantial beasts.
It is a matchup where I feel the better player tends to win on either side. I've seen that a lot in the games I've cast. You just see, oh, this guy understands this slightly better and comes out on top. Again, unless Rexar's the bottom card or something crazy. But he didn't queue that. He's queued the Rogue.
Yeah, see, I do like that too. I love that aspect of it, because when both players are even, then you just let the cards decide the rest. It's really easy after that.
Interesting call here. I think it's fine, but keeping Deathstalker Rexar against the Odd Rogue, there aren't many things it actually kills. But it does give you that 5 armor and that opportunity to make yourself some more defense.
Yeah, it feels like a follow-up to me. Oftentimes you're going to be victim of a Fungal Mancer turn, and your board's going to get beat up really bad, and you're hoping you can find some kind of recovery with Deathstalker Rexar. It's a fairly desperate matchup, and I think it more so is the case when Level is on the coin in this position. You need to be getting threats online very early and then making impact with them right away. So in this position, he would have loved to be able to play Egg and then activate it. Just doesn't have that liberty. He would love to be able to coin and get a Shaw online and put a test to Flamekilla, see if he can kill that first important minion. But without the mana to really follow that up, it's such a difficult thing to do. Play for the mind control tech and then look for the Rexar later down the road.
And I was about to say that I thought Flamekilla was in a fairly mediocre spot relative to the matchup, but then he picks up the Vile Spine, which makes a huge difference in terms of forcing that late damage through.
Yeah, and that's going to cause him probably to end up holding on to this deadly poison. He won wide with the 1-2s here to try to protect that Tar Creeper. And now that that's failed, you know, this is an opportunity for Level to really push something. You know, heading into turn 5, your opponent doesn't have Vile Spine just yet, and this often will prompt some 1-mana cards from them. So if you can get a 1-mana card, what that means is you might be able to delay Vile Spine even further with that style of play.
Void Ripper here, a massive pickup. Shaw was saying 4 mana, gain 6 health, kill your opponent's board at that point for a moment there.
Twilight Guardian.
But the Void Ripper's just going to make that a lot easier should Flamekilla want to. And I think you want to. You can't have these Hunter minions just trading off with Rush. You're going to be in trouble really quickly if you allow that.
Shaw definitely is one of the more dangerous ones to leave up, and I don't really think I approve of it. You know, this card is so scary if you do not have a massive amount of threat under your opponent. Level doesn't have anything that's super crazy going on. Like, he's not going to cube something and then play dead. You know, unless it's the Shaw. If your opponent has cube and play down on the Shaw and you leave it up, you're not going to really get there that much. Still at 26 life.
Yeah, this is a really good start, again, relative to the matchup for Level, and his hand is also looking pretty good right now for maintaining this blockade.
And I love how Flamekilla's played this as well. Not only does it play around the Mind Control tech, but it preserves the Divine Shield on the Argent Squire. So if Cold Blood or Fungal Mancer gets picked up, that's a much more threatening minion. In addition to that, just leveraging the life total. Level's not the aggressive deck here. You know, the hero power does a great job of chipping away, and one big threat will pressure, but use that life total and really leverage it. As Flamekilla and the Odd Rogue, you are the aggressive deck, and it's time to get busy and put a test to Level.
So Level's looking through his hand to try and find any alternative to the Grizzly. There were quite a few interesting options with Spider Bombs and Flanking Strikes, but this is obviously...
It's a massive turn here.
And this, the way this works out, forces him to have a good MC tech into, if he wants to, he can even coin the Flanking Strike, but he's getting so low on health and Leroy's in hand.
Yeah, the Leroy in hand is really the big part of the story after this. Is I don't think Level gets back in this game after that. Ziliax would take him up to 16. Could use the Firefly to take him up to 19. And there'd be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 damage on board with 6 in hand. So Ziliax does technically save him here, but he's also got to get to a winning position as well.
Yeah, and
I'm trying
the
to
winning position is you're on more than 6 health. Your opponent only has 1 card, and it's Leroy.
I'm trying to look at if there's any way that he can secure a board position this turn and then go into Spider Bomb with Ziliax in the following turn. Get a big lifesteal attached to it, and then on the crack back, you also get to take out a minion from the Death Rattle and the Spider Bomb.
I think this Void Ripper has swung this game completely. If there's
like
any danger at all of Flamekilla not getting it done, that Void Ripper just got rid of everything.
And 1 copy of Void Ripper in the deck, and that's what the tech choices are meant to do. They're meant to be timely options.
And he's decided that, you know what, if he's got Leroy, I lose. So let's not play. Let's build a board for the times he hasn't got the Leroy.
If he had stolen the Vile Spine Slayer here, we would have been left with 3, 7 on board plus the 6 in hand. Yeah, that was just pretty much checkmate. Level just got put in a bad spot.
Like how he worked that out there, he just went through, okay, I lose to Leroy. He's gone through all the options. How do I defend against Leroy? Realize he can't. It's like, okay, well, how do I beat all the things that aren't Leroy? And the answer is, get the board right now. But Flamekilla getting it done, 1 game apiece in this first quarterfinal of the day. Winner to play Sintalol or Tars in the semi-final.
And kind of get a glimpse of just why Odd Rogue is a good deck. You know, Death Rattle Hunter is a very potent opponent against many decks in the format right now. And so being able to have a deck that pressures it so much that it doesn't have strong options across the board, that's a very valuable tool to have in a lineup. A lot of players went with Quest Rogue in this tournament. I think Quest Rogue even performed pretty well in this one. But at the end of the day, you know, having an outright aggressive pick, I think, is a very vital tool to any last Hero Standing lineup.
Yeah, and something I like about Flamekilla's lineup is it is one of the more diverse lineups we've seen. We've got Odd Rogue and Odd Warrior in the same lineup. That's fun.
It reminds me a lot of what Purple did in playoffs, even though we're talking about a different format. He had brought 3 aggressive decks. And then a lot of times if you expect an aggressive metagame, what you do is you tune your aggressive decks to be a little bit stronger in mirror matches. Yeah. Purple took that 1 step further. He went, I'll just have Odd Warrior in there instead. That'll be my edge. There's my anti-aggressive aggressive deck. And it's like, well, that's kind of weird and awkward, and honestly, it looked really good. He ended up facing Firebat in like a mirror match, I think, in round 4, whatever it was. They were both sitting at 3-0. I love that style of deck building where you find something that's kind of mundane looking on onset, but when you really think about it, it's quite clever at its core.
We've seen that a lot in the last, especially in the last sort of 4 or 5 months from the top players, where they've really got so much better at building lineups rather than individual decks. They've got very proficient at doing exactly what you just said. Okay, this is my lineup, this is what it's set to beat, and then how do I win the mirror? I know I changed these 3 cards, and now I win everything.
Yeah, it's going to be even Paladin for a level in this one, and this deck took off pretty rapidly in the last couple of weeks, I would say. You're looking at some of the 2-drops that are in here. It's a Hydrologist, Acidic Swamp Ooze, Amani Berserker, you know, the Serenite Chain Gangs, Corpse Taker being a very core card to this deck. And then I think that Levels has been built a little bit differently than what we've seen across tournaments. There's a copy of Argent Commander at the 6th slot. He's got the double Steed that's packed in there, and a Tyrion at the top end with, of course, Wind Fury Harpy as that.
Wind Fury me scowling at the Wind Fury Harpy. It amuses me that that's got a slot.
What did Wind Fury Harpy ever do to you?
Nothing. I've always killed it.
Touche.
It's like, it doesn't do anything. No, it's great to see that even cards like that can just bounce back into the meta.
Neil, you're wrong. It does nothing. This is
my spirit animal.
That's what I'd do if I had $1 million.
What, nothing?
Nothing.
All right. Yeah, that's what most
I guess
do.
millions, you know, talk about the 2 cents thing back to earlier. Millions are not really, it's not as much as it used to be.
It's more than it used to be when you get to my age. Because there's not as long left to worry about it. Meanwhile, back at the board, before I depress everybody, Level9001 has got a decent position here. He's going to be able to maintain control for the foreseeable future.
I want you to describe to me what is decent about it, because I'm looking at it and it looks kind of bad in this spot right now.
I feel that he's obviously having the high health total gives him a lot going on. He's got a lot of time. Let's forget the Corpse Taker, because that's changed everything anyway. He was going to be able to go 1 for 1, and Flamekilla wasn't going to be able to exert any pressure except by going wide. If he did, the Consecration's there to do a lot of damage to that board. And then just the constant chipping away with the 1/1s. You know, if things have 3 health and you've got Consecration and a 1/1, you're doing all right, and you're occupying your opponent's weapon.
So it's just the reaction that Level has in hand. It's so strong against what's going on board that he's able to take a little bit of chip damage here and there. The board doesn't really get out of control because he has ways to recover it.
Yeah, and at some point he's just going to drop a big taunt minion, whether it's a Tyrion, he gets a Corpse Taker and just slow it down even more. And this is where his hero power becomes pretty useful. It has to be dealt with every single turn, and the rogue wants to be hitting you in the face.
Makes sense to me.
There's somebody that did.
That's a lot of damage in Flamekilla's hand, though.
Yeah, there is, especially now that Leroy has come about.
Corpse Taker's a lot of extra life sometimes, though. Oh, there's no Crystal Smith Kangor in the deck, actually.
Is there not?
That was played on turn 2.
Of course.
The lifesteal from Corpse Taker's actually out. Oh.
I'm interested in...
that actually changes my opinion.
That is a big deal. That is a big deal. Kangor is interesting to me in that I always feel you shouldn't play it on turn 2, and it always looks like you have to. Because unless you've got a load of 2-drops in your hand, you've got to put something out there.
I don't know about this True Silver Champion, Neil. Let's hit 2 1/1s.
Let's gain 4 health.
Hit 2 1/1s. And the first time it didn't really do that much. I mean, it didn't really take damage off the board. Now there's a green skin in play.
Not for long, though. This is going to be close.
We're headed to Northrend?
Yeah, definitely going to be a close game.
Well, what's the big draw that Level's looking for here? What big draw is Flamekilla looking for?
I think Tyrion's going to be pretty good for Level when he gets there. He'll get to turn 8. He's not in immediate death pressure. And really just stuff. I think as the mana ticks by, the ability to just make 2 4-drops on the same turn, Glass Knight or something, if that's in there, just having a quick glance.
Last Knight's not in there. He's included the second Serenite Chain Gang.
Okay, so that's another fine pickup. Just for your 4-drop, just stuff. And slowly but surely getting control of the board. I'm not saying it's over, because as you can see, there is this damage you talked about. There is a lot of it starting to tick up.
Flamekilla's got some stuff for you.
And if Flamekilla can maybe pick up a Vile Spine, the game might end in a hurry as well.
Well, going to play the 1/2. So the 1/2 is obviously a nod to the Fungal Mancer you just picked up.
Yeah.
So this is a demanding spot on Level side. He's got to figure something out. But hey, 3 minions, 1 turn. That's what you build that Gen Greymane deck for. You were asking me earlier, you're like, why would you do this to your deck just to get an extra 1/1? That's exactly why.
This match is showing why. Yeah, yesterday I was talking about this because we hadn't seen much in the way of this sort of matchup. And yeah, this is exactly why. These 1/1s are really frustrating, and slowly but surely he's getting the board, but slowly but surely his health total is approaching 0.
And the more I watch this, the more I like the way that Level played this. You know, if Kangor had not been drawn early on, I think he would have lost a little bit more board presence, but he'd have lifesteal on this Corpse Taker right now, and that would be a huge deal at the moment. You know, at 16, he's trying to fight back on that board and take advantage of the timing where Flamekilla stuff comes in. And I think that's a really important thing to think about when you're playing in aggressive matchups, is that, yes, getting the board early is an advantage, but sometimes the timing of how you fight back is just as important as the pressure itself.
And it's going to be so close. But I do feel that Vilespine was a massive deal for Flamekilla.
Ah, you got to think about Tarim.
You have. Yeah, and 16, it's so tempting just to push him down to 11. You've got Leroy in hand, but where's that last few points coming from? If you do that.
Dagger.
Lights out.
Hope about time. That's exactly what Flamekilla is going to do. Says he doesn't want to get slam dunked by Tarim Abdul-Jabbar.
I actually get that reference.
You better. He's one of the best of all time.
Because I watched Airplane.
Saronite's good draw, too.
Yep, we were talking about this Saronite, obviously. As always with these matchups where you're trying to stop aggressive decks that go wide, you know, just the more stuff you can have in general is handy. These 1/1s are going to interact nicely with the equality at some point as well if this game goes much longer.
I am curious if the equality can actually be used right now. You know, what I'm looking at is the Saronite Chain Gang is going to be run over by this 5/3. So if you equality right away and take out the 5/3 instead, you get to play Saronite Chain Gang, you get to hear power back behind it, and you have 2/3 taunts actually contesting the board instead of you know, just getting run over.
And the Rogue, unless it draws Myra's, is just not going to have a wide board. He's got 2 cards in hand. What's the worst that could happen? Not a lot in terms of your equality consecration, which might be miles away. And he's going to go for it.
There's a number of impactful draws still in Flamekilla's deck, so this is probably the vital turn for him in this game. Needs something big. Thinking like Tar Creeper would be great, Vicious Fledgling, Hench Clan Thug. You said Myra's, but Myra's is kind of, everything's cost 5 right now.
You've got to do it. You've got to launch it and see what happens, I think. Finds
a Deadly Poison, finds a Flame Imp to fill things up. 2 Sousy deckhands.
I actually think this is good. Normally, when you play the Myra's, it's as a final blow. You're looking for those cold bloods. You're looking for all that stuff. I think this is a different Myra's to normal. You're actually looking for a bit more board presence. This game, he's not close enough to dead for you to want just that raw damage. You do want a couple of turns of just making good stuff.
And just needed stuff to do. Like behind on board, you got to take it back. And so you need a mix of the damage, you need a mix of the cards that are high impact on board. But you're losing your board here, just kind of presenting 2 1/2s into your opponent's 1/1 right now. You're going to hope that they don't have something big.
Yeah, I want to play Hench Clan Thug here, I think. Unless he's going to go super wide, which is also fine. But I think the Thugs get worse.
I do like the Hench Clan a lot.
It just seems to add up nicely to the numbers that he's facing against.
Take advantage of the board presence instead. Use the Sousy deckhands. Use the 3/1 to run over this as you intended to. Push 6 damage to face.
It's Leroy plays around Tarim quite nicely.
Oh, yeah, and with Leroy in hand, this is beautiful. I wasn't even thinking about just leaving the 2/1 stragglers on board. You know, there's some counterplay on the other side. A Wild Pyromancer with a spell, an Avenging Wrath, a Consecration. But you have 10 set up, so they need more than that as well.
Hydrologist a big deal with that in mind. Tarim a big deal with that in mind.
I think he might just be out of it.
Yeah, Tarim just gets wiped out, obviously, by the Vilespine.
Yeah, I don't think Level has the counter pressure or the life total necessary to really defend this. Auto defense matrix. I mean, that one's really good, but
things don't get attacked though; they just get blown up by plants.
Yeah, that's the one you're worried about. Your opponent just drew the rest of their deck. You are very worried about Vilespine right now. Those 2 cards just on the left in Flamekilla's hand, they've been there the whole time.
Redemption does at least give him a taunty Tarim back.
Vilespine, run over with 2/1.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's enough, but I don't think it is enough, in fact. I think it's exact lethal, but...
Oh, yeah, you buff up your opponent's board, too, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's 10 damage sitting on board. So now the question is, what is that secret?
We're going to find out.
Yeah, Flamekilla's just going through a bunch of iterations and making sure it's not messing up here. You find out that it's not Redemption. And so Noble Sacrifice is the one that comes to your head next. It's not Noble Sacrifice.
So killing your opponent comes to mind next.
Yeah.
And he goes to 2-1. And what do we know?
Tell you what, it's tough to beat Odd Rogue. It's a good deck.
Yeah, and again, I was joking about it earlier because I am surprised we've seen so little of it. It's just that the aggro decks now, you've got a lot more choice in which one to play.
Yeah.
So Odd Rogue just didn't seem to fit everybody's sort of package in this tournament.
Shadowwalk Shaman left for Level. I've seen some Shadowwalks do some work against Odd Rogue. I don't think it's the greatest matchup in the world, but by golly, Volcanoes can do some work.
Shadowwalk Shaman's been a thorny deck for everything since it started being played. It's obviously got favorables and unfavorables, but it doesn't seem to go massively unfavorable against anything. It can just find ways to get things done. You can alter your playstyle, you can alter your mulligan, and it has all that defense to deal with anything on its day.
Yeah, it really is a deck that I think is very well-rounded. It just kind of has it all where little tools are concerned. Some of the cards are super high impact, but some of them just, they're not. But at the right time, they can make a huge difference. So Gluttonous is going to be kept for Level, and Keleseth Found.
I don't think you can ask for a better starting hand here. I really don't.
It's really tough because you look at Keleseth now, going to be buffing Sarnet Chain Gangs in the deck, so when those come up, they provide some substantial defense. But that is Coin, and that is Vicious Fledgling, and Neil, that gets murdery real quick.
Yeah, there's two of them. So you have to kill them twice. And yeah, that's dangerous.
This is a big yikes if you're in Level spot.
Yeah, and he probably feels fine right now. But he's not going to feel fine very soon.
Oh, you're feeling great with this start.
Flamekilla. I was going to say he's got a big decision, but he's got 2 Vicious Fledglings in hand and a coin, so...
Earthshot, really 2 Glacial Shards, that's all you're thinking about. Yeah, Level just went from one of the highest highs to one of the lowest lows. You know, Keleseth's a great card, but this at its heart is not an aggressive deck. Just going to lightning storm.
He's going for it.
Straight away. Gets the roll, but...
Both! No, that is massive, because that just buys him the time to get the Chain Gang on the board.
Well, he's only got 2 mana.
Well...
The overload.
It doesn't matter if the Fledgling hits you once.
That matters a lot. That's the one you don't want.
It matters, but there's only a 30% chance to win Fury, even though it feels like 87.
I don't want that. That's scary.
I mean, yeah, it is the top 8 in a DreamHack. And there is the Wind Fury.
Oh, boy.
And now the bird gets a little bit excited. Wind Fury again.
Mega Wind Fury.
Pretty grim, but can't be targeted. Should be all right.
Well, there's not really any spells that target the deck. That is really weird to me.
Well, you mentioned those Earth Shocks.
There's 1 Earth Shock, there's 2 Hexes. If my opponent wants to spend 4 mana on their turn 5 to deal with my 3/3, you got it.
The rest of Flamekiller's hand isn't currently that amazing. It's amazing because he's got a Wind Fury Vicious Fledgling that's going to distract the attention, but it's not exactly throwing the damage out there right now.
Yeah.
So protecting it is okay for me.
Level's looking like probably starting at Chain Gang
like
this
that
turn, but I'm looking at Void Ripper on the other side. Oh, there's 3/4s.
Yeah, they're big.
I forgot about that.
You were the one who told me they were like that.
Tougher to chew through in that instance, but
yeah, that's a
still
crucial
through. Void Ripper here flops them over to 4 3s. Then you have a 3/1 Dire Maul plus a dagger in the Ardent Squire, and that means 2 more connections with Vicious Fledgling.
Does. That could be a whole lot of damage, for want of a better word than lot at this time. I'll up the words as we go on.
Offered health, offered poisonous.
Yeah, health handy. Obviously, he's seen that Level's willing to Lightning Storm, doesn't want to mess with that.
Wants the plants instead of the attack.
Interesting. I think I'd just like to hit my opponent for 12 next turn.
They just didn't Volcano you when you had a Vicious Fledgling. I expected Volcano you.
There's the Hex, though, that untargetability.
All right, I'll eat my words here. Untargetable was the good choice.
So currently no way for Flamekiller to activate the Vile Spine next turn if this Chain Gang comes down. Not that it matters, they just get blown up, but...
It does put something in the way of Vicious Fledgling. The Acidic Swamp Ooze And then the Manatide Totem. Honestly, when I'm playing Shudderwock Shaman, one of my main priorities is to be able to play 2 cards in a turn and be able to draw cards. But he's on the back foot super fast because of this Vicious Fledgling. So I don't know what the protocol is here. I mean, but it's hit the emergency button and hope that reinforcements show up.
You know what I do know is this would have been lethal if he had taken that +3 attack last turn.
Yeah.
I like the way that Level didn't panic here, didn't play the healing vein, risked a little bit there. It's just like, okay, I need to play that with my chain gang next turn to buy some more time. Because if you can get to a Volcano on a non-zero health total, he does still have a chance. But making the case for the underdog at the moment.
Yeah, you know, I would say somewhere between 10 and 12 is about 0. A lot of times it feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah, when that Myra just comes like we saw last game and you just have all those resources to use how you like.
Yeah, I like the stealth here for Flamekilla. You know, a heed to Glacial Shard as a draw. Oh, they could have Blink Foxed for Rockbiter too.
I love how your mind works. It's like, he can hit it for 12 or he could Blink Fox for a way to win. You're so quick on those.
Well, it took me the whole turn to realize it.
Yeah, you've got to listen to me at the same time as thinking.
Just give me a mere 50 seconds. I'll be able to think about this for a second.
You get 75, we're good.
Glacial Shard gets drawn too. See, the defensive measures on the adaptive mattered so much so far.
Yeah, been really useful. Although, again, if you had taken that +3 and just taken 1 chance, maybe it'd have been safer. As in safe as in your opponent's dead, so they can't do anything.
Yeah, that's, you know, opponent not being able to play the game anymore is usually a pretty safe play.
I do like how Level's playing. I think he's
spend mana.
Trained on since Montreal a lot, even though he did make that top 16 there as well. But Flamekilla has been not on stream at all, as far as I'm aware, and he's just playing very calmly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, take your pick. They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Except the File Spine. That one's pretty bad right now.
How many yeahs can we get in one sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You got 2 mana left. Use the dagger first. Bigger dagger. Bigger dagger's better than smaller dagger. Yeah, there you go.
Big dagger.
Get excited. You can tell. You can taste the win.
Yeah. And that's when people start thinking. You don't want people to start thinking about other things than Hearthstone when they're sat in that seat. That's when weird stuff happens.
4-10. That Vicious Fledgling is hungry.
And remember that Level actually blew up the first one with the Lightning Storm and hit it. And this one's just going all the way. He's also avoided accidents, which is, it's obvious when you're watching from where we are in our position of comfort, but you know, hasn't played into MC Tech. That could have been one of the things that could have sort of made a mess of this. Yeah. We've seen players do that under pressure before.
We've been seeing the aggressive players really fight to keep the board condensed and very powerful.
So picking up Electra isn't good immediately, but it is one of the pieces he might need if he's ever going to somehow not die.
Buff Ziliax. Freeze the Fledgling. I mean, there's some recovery here.
Yeah.
Even start to desperately roll totems.
Yeah, Manatide's just gonna kill off the Blink Fox. Don't hear that every day.
That Manatide's cranking away.
Yeah, and he's getting close to ways out of this. It's definitely not quite over yet if he can... Yeah, he's not going to be able to Zola the Ziliax. That would have made things a bit tasty.
Yikes, that's a major turn.
And again, keeping it down to those 3 minions.
Gotta know what he needs, but I don't think Acolyte was it.
No.
I'm not seeing really a way to get out of this at this point.
Flamekiller's tiptoed around all the potential traps here and looking like he's going to go to next turn. Lethal. There's not even like trickery. There's not even an admirable like, I can get a card of my Acolyte and that card might be this and that might draw me a this. It's just, it's not there, is it?
I don't see anything. Roll a Taunt Totem, hold Dissolve the Taunt
Zola the Taunt Totem and draw
well, that's
3 cards next turn.
That's off the menu now. Hex your own minion, Zola the Frog, try to play it again.
Yeah.
This is desperation, but that's still enough damage for Flamekilla.
That's so much damage. Actually, dead on board anyway without the Leroy in hand.
Gonna wrap it up. Flamekilla 3-1 over Level is gonna move on to the top 4.
Wow. And Odd Rogue just getting it done.
Odd Rogue 3-0. Who needs even Warlock?
He didn't, that's for sure.
Who needs Odd Warrior?
Well, we'll find out later in the tournament.
He did not need it yet, but he very well need it later on, as Flamekilla is moving on to the semifinals. That was a very convincing performance with an aggressive deck that we've been seeing not as much of as we are used to in this tournament. It's been a lot more Odd Paladin, a lot of even Shaman around, but Odd Rogue, for some reason, not as popular as, you know, Flamekilla obviously thinks it should have been.
I think people felt the time was right for Quest Rogue again. The meta had got very, very greedy in some of the control decks, and I think a lot of people saw that coming, went, okay, that's when Quest Rogue's at its best. When people get greedy, we Quest Rogue them to death. And that's, you know, so there's no need for the Odd Rogue in that situation, but Flamekilla just came with a far more usual sort of lineup, I feel, and just showing why sometimes it's better not to go too far off the beaten track.
I also like the fact that they've chosen to go a little bit more lower to the ground here. No Cobalt Scalebanes in the list, you know, extra 3-drop, and then the full suit of the 1-drops in there sans the crystallizers. Doesn't have the extra copies of Dire Maul, chose to go with the Argent Squire instead. And
that distinguishes yourself from even Paladin by changing. You know, there's no point going for this sort of mid-range strategy when you've got even Paladin as a deck.
Yeah.
You're going to do that, you just play that instead.
I agree.
So he has just condensed it down. Nice.
Makes a lot of sense and certainly has paid off quite well. Flamekilla moving on as our first semi-finalist here at DreamHack Atlanta. He will be going up against the winner of our next series. It is Sintalal taking on Tars. So when we come back, one of the more hotly anticipated quarterfinal matches coming up. Make sure you stick around because this one is going to be good.